Cool. All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining today. So this question and answer is really for you guys. So I want to make sure that you get your questions answered. If you need help on any exercise or have questions, this is really your time. Just to give you a quick introduction about myself, I've been working with PGI now for about 11 years. Started off as a client about 12 years ago. I am I'm definitely a good example of someone that had studied the material for several years before I actually implemented a lot of the material. And it was about 12 years ago, was actually a conversation with Arash, who's been doing a lot of the teachings this week, got me to see some of the things that I didn't see. And, that's when I first became a client of PGI's, went through the coaching program here originally, and that changed my world, absolutely changed my life, and led me down the path to deciding that this is even what I wanted to get into. I also want to introduce Kelly. So Kelly is also on the call with us. Kelly is, you could call her my assistant, but Kelly does pretty much everything. So I don't feel that's a good title for Kelly. So Kelly, you want to give a quick intro about you?
Hi, everyone. I actually recognize some of the names from some of the emails I've sent back. I've been working for PGI for around 9 years now, dating back to a live event that I went to in May 9 years ago. It was May 9 years ago. And big student of the material. I was a teacher for 15 years. Really dive deep into mindset work with children, and was able to translate a lot of that with adults. And I absolutely have loved every minute of helping clients here at PGI.
Awesome. Thanks, Kelly. So, this week, just a couple of things before we jump into the Q&A to kind of help you guys. This week we covered a lot. And for those of you that on previous 5-day events, a lot of it is probably a refresher. If I can give you just a couple pieces of advice when you leave here, don't try and implement everything that you learned this week. Find at least a couple of things that really resonated with you for whatever reason. And I would tell you to keep going in deep with that. So whether it was on day one, kind of looking at your limiting paradigms, determining what's the vision for the life you want to be living in the future. If that really resonated and connected with you, I would tell you spend more time on it, keep going in. Day number 2 was all about goals, and I'm a big believer that the goal comes from the vision. I think getting that vision so clear in your mind is absolutely critical. I don't know how you can move forward if you don't do that. But a lot of the times the goal can match the vision. So you can basically build the goal to allow you to create that vision for how you want to be living. And then day number 3 was all about attitude and self-image. And, attitude was a lesson that I think probably took me years to really understand. It's a very simple concept, right? It's your thoughts, your feelings, and actions. But if you think about it, it's kind of like the stick figure behind me. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. But again, it's your thoughts, your conscious mind, your feelings are your subconscious, your actions is your body. So at the end of the day, you are your attitude. So that's why I'm telling you, it's such an important lesson to really understand. And, I know anyone that studied Bob has heard him talk about the importance of repetition. Again, easy concept to understand, but if you've been programmed to learn completely different, it doesn't matter that you understand that that's important. It matters that you do that consistently. And, just from watching Bob study, I'm telling you, he would study a paragraph for 6 months, because again, it's not about gathering as much information as you can. You want to study to apply what you're learning here. So again, that's why I say we're covering a lot in these 5 days. Just take 1 or 2 new ideas that you can implement and put it into practice immediately, and just get into massive action. Okay, so I hope that helps you guys. So that being said, I'm open to any questions. Does anyone have some questions? And you can either raise your hand or hit the hand raising button. Either way.
Chris, we did have some questions come in via email, and so maybe we can start off that way, and then that might inspire other people to go ahead and ask you some questions.
Sure.
Okay. So one of the questions that came in was, I understand that self-image is so important. What is one thing I could do next week to improve mine?
This is a good question. And, Arash has been doing a program that's relatively new called Seven Figure Self-Image. And, I've shared this before. It's the best results I've ever seen out of any program that we've done at PGI. And it's because, again, that image is everything. So, one of the things I would tell you to do is when you write out that image, so the person that you want to become, we talk a lot about in that program about creating identity-based behaviors. So it's like you want to figure out specific behaviors that you want to put into practice immediately. And a lot of times these are, things that are not in harmony with your existing paradigm. So they're going to make you uncomfortable. And that's the whole point. Like the only way you're ever going to change your image is by taking uncomfortable action, because then you're going to start to show yourself what you can do. And I was talking to a client yesterday about this, and we've been having the conversation for a couple of weeks. She's a consultant with us out in Australia. And, one of the things, she is very resistant to social media. So she hates doing social media. She just thinks it's a waste of time. And I can't say that I disagree, but I also understand if you're building a business and that's part of your business, you got to be willing to do the things that are uncomfortable. And I just had her do it for the last 2 weeks, right? So every day I had her post. I told her she didn't even have to post the videos. I said, at least create the videos. If you want to post them, great. At least get in the habit of just creating the videos to put your content out there. And, she's gotten a couple of clients in the last few weeks. So again, has she changed totally? Absolutely not, right? But if she consistently does that, gets uncomfortable, that's going to be a part of her new identity. That will be her new perspective, right? That's the only way you're ever going to change the image, is by taking uncomfortable action. It's not just through study. It's not doing the writing. That's all passive, very passive. It's important, but let's be real. That's not going to change you. You still got to do the work.
Chris, so I'm listening to you and I'm thinking about how, we talk about it's in the doing that things get done. What would you suggest people could do so that they could match some actions to their goals?
Yeah, so this is something Kelly and I have actually talked about this, previously. Like, I think you got to get the image in your mind. So like, let's say, for example, you want to get healthy, right? So it's what I was saying, you got to choose those behaviors that are going to line up to match the goal. So, I'm a big believer in writing these things down. So get it written down. So if you want to eat healthy, and I kind of played a game, I've used this with a couple of my clients that I call 30 wins a week, where I have them, commit to doing 5 things every day, 6 days a week. They can take that last day off, right? Just to relax. And what that does, it kind of gets you, because changing habits, I think for a lot of people, is a daunting process. It's not easy to do. But if you can switch it in your mind from focusing on changing habits to just creating the mindset of creating wins every day. If you win the day, you're going to win the week, you win the week, you win the month, you win the month, you win the year. So again, it gets you into the perspective, or gets you in the mindset of just creating winning habits. And so again, I think you got to deliberately determine the behaviors that you're going to implement. And you got to learn to create self-discipline. And Arash touched on this a little bit this week, like your word is everything, and I don't mean just your word to others. I mean your word to yourself. And when you say you're going to do something and you don't do it, I'm telling you, you have no idea how much damage that does to you. You stop trusting yourself. And that does the opposite of building the self-image. That chips away at the self-image. So again, it's just a little tool to get you in the habit of doing the things that are really going to create massive change over time. And these don't have to be huge things, right? It's the little wins over time will turn into big wins. So that's what you want to start implementing.
I have a question.
Sure.
Yeah, the first thing is, doing an inventory of your limiting beliefs and just putting them away.
Mm-hmm.
And how would you reprogram or change your paradigm so the new software sinks in your subconscious, so that that program that's running 95% of the time, it's there now.
Well, you got to think about it. You got to remember, like, how was that created in the first place? And look, we all have good paradigms and we all have bad. And you just got to learn to replace the ones that aren't serving you. So we talk about, and Bob used to always say, there's only two ways you're ever going to change a paradigm. One is an emotional impact. And, that is almost always a negative thing. What's that?
And the other one is by repetition.
Repetition, action steps, and accountability. So it's not just the repetition, like you got to take action and there's got to be accountability because, in my opinion, it's human nature. It's like, we're not great at holding ourselves accountable until we develop that paradigm. Like Bob was a very disciplined person, extremely disciplined. Arash is extremely disciplined. But again, neither, and I've known Arash for a very long time. I can assure you that is not how he grew up. He was not a very disciplined person. So again, these are all things that you got to make a conscious decision. You got to deliberately determine, what are the paradigms you want to create. So all this stuff really lines up. Like if you really step back and think about it, it starts like this. There's a reason why we follow this 5-day model. So day one is getting clear on the limiting beliefs, the things that are holding you back. This is an exercise I think you should be doing. And again, we don't want to put too much energy on the things that are holding you back, but you got to become aware of it. Because I can assure all of you, including myself, there's a lot of things that we're doing on a daily basis that aren't helping us, that are not serving us. But we're on autopilot. We're still doing it. We're not aware of it. We're just not paying attention. So you want to check in with yourself. You want to think about how you're operating on a daily basis, what you're doing, what you're thinking, and just do this. And, there's an exercise we do with clients where we get them to write out like how they're spending their day, what they're actually doing throughout their day. And number one, this will take you weeks because you will never, like I'm telling you, it is a very difficult exercise to do because you're just doing it. Like you're not thinking, what am I doing right now? So you got to constantly be checking in with yourself. So I would set a little alarm where I'd be constantly checking in and writing down what I'm doing. You have no idea how much time you are wasting throughout the day. It was crazy how much time I was wasting on stuff that I didn't even realize, like dumb stuff, day number 2 is where we got into the goals. And if you don't have a goal that's going to sufficiently motivate you, you're never going to do anything. And this is why a lot of the times we talk about goal setting, and I think most people believe that that's an easy thing to do. It's just, I choose a goal. I personally think that is one of the hardest things you will ever do, because to find something that you can really get emotionally involved in, that you get create a healthy obsession with, it takes time, it takes thought, it takes work. And you really got to think this through. That's why we did another 5-day event. It was, I remember something about, I can't even remember the name of it. It was something around earning $1 million a year. And so a lot of people that were in the group said, I want to earn $1 million a year. But I guarantee you, if we ask them the questions, like, why do you want to earn $1 million a year? They might be able to give a couple of answers. But if you keep taking them a little bit deeper, like, why do you want that? Or why is this important to you? Like, you got to go deep. Like, you got to really get down to the root cause of this stuff. No number is ever just going to inspire somebody to take that kind of action. So again, you got to go deep with this, right? So once you have the goal, then you got to deliberately determine, who is the person I need to become? So this is when we're getting into self-image, and you're starting to deliberately determine the extra, like what you're going to do on a daily basis. So you can see, like, all this stuff, yes, it's simple to understand, but it takes work to really get down deep enough to where it's really going to create a major impact in your life. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other question is, you had 2 programs. One is to be a consultant, and the other one is to get mentoring. So I don't obviously.
Yeah, we actually have a lot of programs. So I think he just talked about 2 of the programs. So we have the consultancy, which is very specific. I mean, that is for people that really connect with this material and for people that want to go create their own business. And it's where we are not just teaching you conceptually, how to go out and do that. It's like we already have everything in place. So what I love about that is, look, people that connect with this and want to do this, I don't believe that businesses fail, people fail. And people fail because number one, they don't know what to do, right? It's just too many moving parts. So they don't have any order in their mind. So they think, well, I got to go learn how to brand. I got to learn how to market. I got to learn how to sell. I got to learn how to do all these different things. And it just takes you in such a place where it can be too daunting, where people just give up and go back, right? They just never see it through. And the beautiful thing about the consultancy is like, it's literally a blueprint to show you how to go do this. But like I said, not from just a conceptual, like we have things like your, email sequences, your brochures, your contracts. You don't have to go create your own coaching programs. We already have the coaching programs. So that's why we call it Earn as You Learn, because, most of our consultants will go out there, usually within their first 30, 60 days and start getting clients and working with clients. And the reason why they can do that is because, again, everything is there. It's just you're following the system. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. So, and again, like I said,
And
that's
what
not
about
for
the-
everyone. That's for people that really want to go do this. Then we have
Yeah.
a bunch of different coaching programs like mentorships. So we have our 12-month coaching program, which is it's an immersion where you're really immersing yourself into this material for 12 months. And we're teaching you how to apply it into your life. So it's just a program really designed, for me, when I did it 12 years ago, it got me clear on what I wanted. Because even though I'd been studying this for many years, I'd done a lot of coachings, I'd spent a fortune on trainings. Bob asked me, he said, well, what's the goal? I couldn't answer that question. I said, I want to be free. I want to be financially free. And he said, what the hell does that mean? And I couldn't answer that question. And mind you, I'd spent all this money, all this time. And he said, you don't even have step one. And he said, look, you might think that's a small thing. He said, Chris, that's everything. He said, you can't move to step two if you don't start with step one. So I was so angry at that. But okay, so that's the coaching program. Okay. Then we have another program, which it's called 7-Figure Self-Image. This is one that's led by Arash. This is a really good program for people that have something that they want to sink their teeth into, like either grow your existing business, you have an idea that you're ready to go act on. This is the one that's going to get you in uncomfortable action, like things that are actually going to allow you to create results in whatever you're doing. And like I mentioned earlier, this program has created better results than anything we've ever done. But I think that's why we're so focused on the identity-based behaviors that are going to be necessary to your success. There's no shortcut. You're going to have to get uncomfortable. I don't care what your goal is. You want a better relationship, better health. I don't care. You're going to have to
get out of that.
You got
that
to.
comfort zone. Yeah.
That's right. And then
And what?
Go ahead.
What about the values, the price of these
price?
programs?
They range vastly. The consultancy is about $30,000 US. So it's $29,995 if you do it in one, or we have a payment plan, which most people will break it up into payments. The 12-month coaching program is $7,000 for the year. So it's $6,995, or again, we have a payment plan where you can break it up. The 7-Figure Self-Image program is $10,000. That's a 3-month program. Then we have another program called the Inner Circle, which some of the deeper philosophical teachings. It's not where we study Bob, it's where we study what Bob was studying. You'll see a lot of our existing clients in the Inner Circle, like people that have been through our programs looking to create another jump. It's a great, the teaching and they're phenomenal. That's $10,000 for 3 months or $18,000 for 6 months. So our programs range, right? Anywhere, and this is the elite ones, from $7,000 up to $30,000, just depending on the program and the payment plan. But if people are serious about getting like real mentorship, I would suggest scheduling a time, like a one-on-one call, because that's where we'll find out what your goals are, what you're wanting to see, and we can kind of figure out what would be the best way to help you.
Okay.
That's why you can't go on our websites and just sign up for any of the elite programs, because we got to make sure it's the right fit.
So I would like to get on a call just to clear that up.
Sure. Why don't we do this? What's that?
I can set that up for him.
Okay. Yeah. And if we can also put do you have my link, Kelly? My Calendly link? So if you could put the, I think it's the text one in there, because then I got times open over the weekend. I don't think my other calendar does.
Chris, one thing I always let clients know before I put them on the phone with you is you actually do spend a lot of time going in depth about what they do want so that you can find the best program for them. We would never want anyone involved in a program where you weren't set up from the very beginning to really win big. And so Chris does spend that time really talking with you and then goes through the program details. But the goal here is for you to ultimately win big. And that's what that appointment is for.
Yeah, and the whole purpose of that call, I mean, it's really to help you. You know, like when I did a call like that with Arash 12 years ago, you know, I'm telling you that call changed my life. Like my life didn't change on that call, but with the advice he gave me and got me to see what I wasn't seeing changed my life. Same with, so Kelly used to work with one of our coaches, Bill. And Bill is a great man. He's an amazing guy. You know, Bill was a client here originally, and Bill was in a bad place back in those days. You know, he gotten himself in a little bit of debt. They were running a couple of restaurants. It was actually a lot of debt. And, you know, he really didn't know what he wanted.
Say it was a lot of debt.
Yeah, it was a lot. You know, and he just honestly,
he was so excited about that call with Arash. He was so excited about that call to speak with someone from PGI that he had all the lights closed, he had the doors closed, he didn't want anyone to know he was there. And Arash was a little late to the call and he was sitting there waiting for it because he knew it could change his life. And it was more than $1 million in debt. And he got out of it because he was coachable. He was willing to take a chance. I mean, he had to really find the money to do a program, and he wanted his life to just be different. So he found a way.
That's it. I mean, and that's all of our clients, like all the success stories. Like Bob would have told you, he said, like, I take no credit for the successes. He said, because I take credit for the successes, that means I got to take credit for the failures. And he said, look, the material is the material. You implement it, it will work, and it will work every single time. But the deal is you got to work it. And Kelly is right. Like Bill was very coachable. Bill did lie on that call, though. He did lie on that call. You know, but again, it's just, look, at the end of the day, it's just, you gotta, it's not enough to want more. It's not, you know, it doesn't matter what you want. It really matters. What are you, you know, what are you really willing to do? Are you willing to get uncomfortable? And there's a great quote by Ken Blanchard. And it's something like, when it comes to achieving goals, he said, people are either interested or committed. And he said, when you're interested, you're going to do whatever's convenient. He said, it's always going to lead to procrastination. He said, you're always going to do the little things. And he said, when you really commit yourself, it's about only accepting results, not excuses. And I love that, because that's exactly what it is. Like every single one of you is already capable of achieving the goals that you have. We're not going to give you things that you don't have. You've got it, but you got to bring this out of you. And, you know, and that isn't just motivational speak. It's like that belief has really got to be there. But this is why, you know, I think self-image is the critical component, because that's what determines whether or not you can set or, you know, achieve the goal. You know, I mean, your self-image is what's even going to set that goal, what you believe you can do. And if you don't believe that you can do it, you don't need to know how, but we need to work towards the how. See, that's a big thing too. A lot of people hear, well, you don't need to know the how, but yeah, we got to figure out the how. You don't need to know the how right now, but you got to know what you want. You got to know why you want it. And we got to work to figure out the how. I hope that makes sense. Amy, you have a question?
Yeah, so as far as like if you did because I will schedule a call to talk about the 12-month versus the 7-figure. As far as like when you want to do it, does it start any time like you decide to sign up? Because I'm in the middle of moving, and right now is just the absolute worst time to even think about it. But January is a much better time. So, but I would like to talk to you about it before January. So does it matter? I mean, are the classes or the courses, is it on your own, like, you know, you go at your own thing, or is it like a certain start date is when those start?
It kind of depends on the program.
Okay.
So it really depends on the program itself.
Okay.
But either, Most of them, all of them really, whatever one you start would be the day you start, but a lot of them will have like an intro period where we're getting you ready for it.
Okay.
You know, like the coaching, for example, like it's actually over 12 months,
Okay.
but there's like a couple of things that we need you to do before we even get started in the coaching. So
Okay.
things like, we got to get you very clear on your purpose, get you clear on the vision, the goals. So like we want to make sure when we start the coaching that we're hitting the ground running. So like now, if you are moving, I totally get it. But again, that doesn't mean that I wouldn't tell you to get started. Like there's certain things that I would encourage you to do, and this isn't a lot of time. But so when you are really ready to hit the ground, like you're prepared, so you're not
Okay.
waiting. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So that sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Let me open this up because I can only see a couple people here. Oh, there we go. Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
Chris,
Mm-hmm.
if nobody has any questions, we still have some from people that weren't able to attend the live right now that would
Okay.
like some of their questions. Is that okay?
Yeah, definitely. And I got to go because I know I got a bunch of emails asking questions too. Yeah, but yeah, go fire away, whatever you have.
Can you help me understand how I can really burn an idea into my subconscious mind?
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, this is why, like, when we got into the exercise of writing out the goal on day 2, auto suggestion, for any of you that have read Think and Grow Rich or any Napoleon Hill always talks about auto suggestion, and auto suggestion is just giving a suggestion from yourself to yourself. And auto suggestion is probably one of the best ways to burn that into the subconscious, right? It's just repetition, but there's different forms of auto suggestion. So just meaning you can write it out, write the goal out. I used to do something where I would actually write out almost a vision of how I saw my day going every morning before I would start my day. And it was like 2 paragraphs long, and I would write it like 3 times. I'm a person that was a little bit resistant to auto suggestion. It just sounded stupid. Like I just thought, well, how could writing something really create a profound effect? Like I really just didn't buy into it. And I'll tell you, once I started to do it, it was crazy how quickly things happened. So I am a big believer in auto suggestion. So that's one form of auto suggestion. You can also record it, I have an app, it's called Think Up. And it's basically, it allows you to record, it's got preset affirmations. It allows you to play music behind it. You can loop it. So it's got a lot of cool functionality to it. But I've had like my wife record the vision or the goals, right? Where I would listen to them or my daughter. So you got to kind of try different things to figure out what feels right for you. It's called Think Up, Susan. I think up. So think UP. And a lot of times people will ask, well, what's your routine? And I think everybody should have a daily routine that they follow. You study any successful person, they always have a routine that they follow, but they don't all have the same routine. And I think this is why it's so important to find what really resonates and connects with you. That's why I do like these 5-day events, because we're giving you like a small taste of a bunch of things. I don't really believe that people's paradigms are changing in these 5 days, but I think it gets you to open up and, get emotionally involved in making change in your life. So I think it does inspire you. It puts you in a good vibration, but at the end of the day, it's up to us whether or not we continue that, because like I said, I don't really believe anybody's paradigm is changing in these 5 days. Years ago, when I would go to seminars, I would get home and think, oh my God, everything has changed. I'm going to go conquer the world. And, 2 weeks later, I'd be right back where I was before I went. And I was kind of in a phase where I would, blame Tony Robbins. Oh, it's a scam. It doesn't work. There was nothing wrong with what they were doing. It absolutely does work, but I didn't understand how the paradigm worked. So I was inspired. I was motivated. But I'm telling you, motivation is always going to be short-lived. And for me, I think that's what resonated so much with Bob is it gives you more of an understanding of this. You understand why you're doing what you're doing, why you get the results.
Chris, that's actually a great lead-in to one of the questions we had, and it's about routine. And this client had written in a lot of stuff, but basically the question revolves around how do I figure out what my routine is, because my days are so different, because I'm a mom that has to do different things each day. So what would you suggest some things are they could do every day, or how to establish that routine for this client?
Yeah, I mean, this kind of goes back to what I was talking about, how we were, kind of working with clients on taking them through a process to deliberately determine what their routines are, because, you want to make sure, again, you're doing some things that are working on your mindset. I do believe everybody should be doing something physically. Like, I think you got to do something physical every single day. Like, I don't care if it's walking for 5 minutes, you got to do something, because I think that does affect your mindset. So again, I think it depends on your goal. So I think these routines should be lining up to the goal, because we don't want you to just write gratitude every morning and then write out your goal 50 times and do these things. Because like, if you're not doing action steps that are going to lead you to achieve the goal, like I said earlier, those are very passive things. And I'm not saying those are bad things. Those are great things. But that alone is never going to change anybody's results. It will not. Like, we got to be doing things that are really going to help us grow and get to what we want to go to. But again, we got to figure out what that routine is for each individual. And I think it depends on your goal.
Yeah, that's so important, Chris, to develop those, be able to really look at what we can do and what is going to actually help us get to our goal, because it does all look differently for everyone based on their goals and what they are able.
Yeah, and part of that too is like, you got to be checking in with yourself daily. Like, we had been doing something, I think it was since probably last year, where, Arash gave our team a couple of questions to think about every single day at the end of our day. And it was questions like, did I act like the person that would have achieved my goal today? Did I have the discipline of someone that would have achieved my goal today? Did I have the attitude of someone that would have achieved my goal today? And something that sounds so simple, but if you really put the right energy and emphasis in it, I'm telling you, that will change your life. We have someone on our team that I think he doubled his income within 6 months. Nothing different, just checking in with himself, seeing how he's showing up on a regular basis. So again, these don't have to be complicated things. And, I personally think this is one of the most difficult things in personal development is there's so much good teachings. There's so many great teachers. There's so many great lessons. But I think we've become a society that has very little focus. So we don't really put into practice anything of what we learned. We're always searching for the next thing. And I was reading this article, it said something like the human attention span is less than 8 seconds now. And they said it was less than a goldfish. And I mean, if you think about it, that's sad. And it's just, I think it's not getting better. It's only getting worse because our attention is always getting pulled in different directions. And my favorite book it's this book, The Power of Awareness by Neville. And you'll hear a lot of people talk about that book. It's a great book. But he talks about this. He says that the only problem people have is weakness of attention and poverty of imagination. So weakness of attention means lack of focus. We don't stay focused on what we want long enough. We don't. I guarantee, test it. Test yourself. Ask yourself, am I focused on what I want? Keep checking in with yourself. I guarantee you, you're not, right? The majority of the time, you're not. And he said poverty of imagination. Poverty of imagination is, I think where default is always focused on circumstances and limiting, why we can't achieve what we want to achieve. Well, I can't do it because I don't have money, or I can't do it because, I don't have the time. And I'm telling you, these are reasons that absolutely make sense to us. I was the master of them. I had plenty of great excuses, but they're still excuses. And weakness of attention and poverty of imagination. Poverty of imagination, like I said, is just we're not looking for ways in which we can. We're not switching our mindset to focus on solutions. we're so stuck in circumstance. And this that's a great section in The Science of Getting Rich, where he talks about this as well. And it's this section, I think it's chapter 4, I believe, where he talks about, thinking truth regardless of appearances. And he said that's the hardest work in the world to do. And it's especially true if your truth is contrary to your appearances. So just meaning, if you're really struggling, it's hard to focus on abundance. So it's hard to focus on freedom if you're worried about paying rent. But the truth is exactly what you have to train your mind to do. You got to flip the switch. You got to get your mindset focused onto ways in which you can and why you can, not why you can't. And I'm telling you, we've all been programmed. I don't care where you're from or where you've been raised or how you've been raised. We've all been programmed with the same stuff. And so that's why I say studying alone is never going to change you, because, great mentorship, like I said, it's not about teaching you what to think, it's teaching you how to think. And you'll hear Arash say that that's what Bob really taught him to do. It wasn't about what the content was. It was about teaching him how to be introspective, teaching him to study himself, because that's what we all should be doing on a regular basis. It's not just about teaching or studying content.
Chris, Guillermo had another question, and this is such a great question for you to answer. It says, he said, I realize that being so critical and analytic is not serving me. What are your thoughts on this?
I think it does and it doesn't. It depends on how you use it. I think being like, when I first got into this, because I'm very analytical, my background was IT. So I worked in IT for like 15 years. And, so I'm very analytical. My dad was a scientist. I mean, that was just what I was raised in, so I think it can actually serve you. Like, I didn't agree with everything that Bob said. Like, Bob was very against business plans, very against them. Like, he thought they were a giant waste of time. And I get it from the perspective that if you ask most business owners, did their business go according to plan? And I think you'd be hard pressed to find anybody that their business actually went according to plan. But like, for me, like, that planning brings order to my mind. That order brings that produces confidence for me. So I think it's not a good or a bad thing. It's just, you got to know yourself, and you got to be confident in yourself and understand how to use the way that the good parts of what you do have to use for you. So again, I don't think being analytical is necessarily a bad thing. I really don't. I used to think that when I first got into this, because when I was studying it, that's what I thought is like, you don't get into that, just get into the emotion of it. Well, no, I think you got to know you.
Maybe
so I think the logic side is a good side.
Yeah, can I add something else? No,
Sure.
what I realized, it's not the right way to say it, like being very analytical, like you overanalyze things. So obviously, you don't actually do anything because you want to have all the pieces together before you start doing something. So that part, obviously, it's not serving.
Yeah.
But being analytical and understanding things is, it's something that could be good. The other thing is when you're too logical, like that dreaming and visioning stuff, and just being not logical in this is what I realized, like just think and vision about what you want in life, and then there's no logic of how that's gonna, obviously doing your affirmations and all this is right. I mean, obviously when you do it, you're gonna understand it, but if you explain it to somebody logically, it's not,
No, totally. And I can relate to that, because again, and this is just my opinion, but I think it's because most of us are playing life not to lose. We're playing defense. We're trying to get everything perfect before we get going. And that's not what you want to do. It's that, what do they say? Ready, fire, aim, right? You just want to get into action, but it's not, you don't just go do stuff to do stuff. You want to think about the actions that you're taking. But this goes back to what I said about, making uncomfortable action. That's the only way we ever change anything, whether that be our results or our identity. It's by taking uncomfortable action. So I think a lot of the times we overanalyze because we don't want to take uncomfortable action. So we got to understand the paradigm. And that's why I said earlier, Bob always said it's faith based on understanding. You start to understand if you're getting, you're analyzing things too far, you're in the head, right? You're all in the paradigm. The paradigm's just trying to make you stay comfortable. So it's a fine line. I'm not saying you take reckless action. You want to think it through. But again, this is why we always talk about making fast decisions, but it doesn't mean, fast on, decisions that are just on a whim. Like, you make decisions based off of what do you want. And I'll never forget this. And I shared this, I think, on my last Q&A. So I was flying with Bob. We were flying from Toronto to Vegas, and it was me, Arash, and another one of our coaches. And I asked him the question. I said, well, how do these people train themselves to make fast decisions? And he said, no. He said, you're missing the whole point. He said, it's not about the speed. He said they make fast decisions because they know what they want, and they make their decisions based off of, is this going to get me to where I want to go? Not what is it, but that's not how we do things. And it kind of goes back to what I said earlier. I don't think most people do know what they want. I know, like, most of us think we do. Like, I know that, trust me, I know that, but I think, again, even getting clear on what you want really takes a lot of work. And, we did it was a program called the 1%. And it was so cool. This was like, I'm telling you, I wish you guys could have seen Bob when he was in a small group, kind of coaching people one-to-one like that. He was so good. Like, he was so good in those settings. It's just, that wasn't something that, we had such a big audience. Not a lot of people got to see that. But when he would get in that setting, he would be so good at coaching people. But this event, we had 15 people. And these are all high end, right? These are all people that had created a good deal of success. And I mean, not a single person in that room, not a single one could really explain what they wanted, right? And it took us probably 4 or 5 days before we had everybody really clear on what they wanted. But I'm telling you, that alone will change your life. That alone will get you focused on what you want. That's how you're going to start to look for ways in which you can. And your paradigm will fight you the whole time. So I hope that helps you. Okay, Kelly, do we have any other email questions?
We do. Just one second
My
here.
emails.
Okay. Arash talks about a life script and talking about it in the present tense. Can you help me with some examples of how to write it the right way?
Yeah, so someone asked me this question yesterday, and like, the way that I always do it, and the best way that I can describe it, it's like you write it in the story in the day of your life, like you're living that day. Like, you wake up in the morning, like, from the moment you get out of bed, stepping on the floor, what's the floor look like? What's the view? Like, how are you spending your days? But you write it like you're living that day. You're in the present tense. So not off in the future, like coming up. It's like you're here. You're in this day. And, it might say something like, what's the date today? The 11th. It's November 11th, 2023. I'm sitting here on the beach in Maui, reflecting on how amazing this past year has been. I'm staring at the crystal clear. Like, for me, like, there's my place that I always go to. I know the sights, the smells, the sounds, like, that's my place. Right. But like, I'm now earning, 150,000 or more every single month, helping people change their lives on a daily basis. I work 20 hours a week. Like, so like, you're in it. Right. But you want to be incredibly descriptive, because again, our mind thinks in pictures. It's not the words. The words are what's going to create the images in your mind. So a lot of the times, and I'm one of them, like I would say, well, I'm not good at visualizing. And the truth is, it's a muscle. It's like someone that tries to go meditate for the first time. Like, I did transcendental meditation, and that was driving me crazy, man. Because it, like, to do that, you got to really relax the mind. So like, I stopped probably 7-8 times just saying, I can't do this. And the truth was, like it's like building new habits. Like, you can't quit. It's like, you don't quit when it gets hard, because like, if you keep sticking through it, there's one of my favorite books, and Kelly and I have been talking about this too, Atomic Habits. This book is so good. But he talks about there's a threshold, there's a place where if you use your self-discipline, you keep yourself doing these uncomfortable things long enough, you'll get to a point where that will become your new place, right? It won't be hard to do it anymore. That's who you are. And, Kelly and I were talking about this because, Kelly is extremely healthy. She goes to CrossFit every day, you work out twice a day, right? Yeah. And like, I'm sure at the beginning, there had to have been a reason why you wanted to do that. In the beginning, I'm sure it sucked, but you got to a point where this is just who you are. It's part of your routine. And I think that's it. Most people don't have the discipline to stick it through. And this is why I think mentorship is critical, because mentorship isn't about teaching you this stuff. It's about getting you to see when you're going off track. It's about getting you accountable to getting back on track. Because I'm telling you, you will find every reason and excuse of why you don't think you can do what you want to do. But it's not true. You can. But you got to stay in it long enough.
Chris, I think that's one of the great things about working with a mentor is that, you can go find superior knowledge on YouTube. You could be on 5-day events. I mean, there are so many people that can give you that superior knowledge, but it's the actual playing it out, because being uncomfortable is uncomfortable. And
Right.
You need someone that can really guide you through that whole process so that there does come a point where it's not uncomfortable. My story about the health and fitness, it is just physically uncomfortable for me to not work out anymore. And I used to not be able to even run a 1/10 of a mile. That's how unhealthy I was and how unfit. And we had this conversation earlier. I don't plan vacations without making sure there's some way I can exercise, whether that's a hike, that's a walk, that's a whatever that may be, because it is now uncomfortable to do what used to be uncomfortable. And mentorship is so important for that guidance piece of it to really keep you on track, whatever it is your goal is.
It's your identity, right? That's your identity now.
Mm-hmm.
And we
Yeah.
were talking about how do you change the self-image? That's how you change it.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's the same thing for everything. I don't care if it's, again, health, relationships, wealth, everything, same thing. But I think this is, I'll never forget, there was a, let's see if I have a pen. So this was we used to do an event called the Matrix here. And that's where when Kelly was working with Bill, that was the event that Bill came to. And it was the first Matrix I went to. And like I said, like prior to that, I was a personal development junkie. And I was always studying different people, studying different things. And Bob sat me down and he said, stop. He said, stop studying all that. He said, you got to get focused. And he said, I don't care who you study. I don't care if it's me. He said, I don't care. He said, you find what resonates with you, what connects with you, and you go in deep. And he sat me down and he drew this out for me. And drawing skills is not part of my identity, so I apologize. So he just said, look, he said, most people, he said, when they go study something, he said, let's say you study Bob, right? He said, they start studying Bob's material, right? And then you go study whatever it is, like Jack Canfield, right? And you go in here. He said, what happens is so many people are always at the surface. They're just going here. Then they go study, I'm going to go study, social media. I'm going to go study this. I'm going to study this. He said, when he worked with his mentors, he would study with them for years. He said, because he wanted to go deep enough where he wasn't just studying their material, he was studying them. And that's why, like, if you guys have studied Bob for a while, he had always talked about when he was faced with a challenge in life, he would literally go sit at his dining room table and he would sit in each individual chair. And he had studied certain people so deeply that he said, I would get in the energy of that person. He would sit down in a chair and I would get in the energy of Napoleon Hill. How would Napoleon Hill look at this business problem? How would he handle this? How would Earl Nightingale handle this? How would, whoever he was studying, right? And he would just go in each thing. And he said he would get his answers because it would get him to change his perspective. He would see things from a different point of view. And that's why I say, like, when you study this stuff, you got to be careful It's not about studying more. It's about being effective. It's about starting to study yourself, really seeing how you're showing up in life, because most people play a very small game. And that's not a knock. Like if that's you, don't feel bad about it because it doesn't mean anything. Like your results today don't mean anything comparative to the trajectory. If you make a decision to move, if you make a decision to change, but a decision is not just with the words, right? It's always got to be backed up by action, always, so you can't just say, I'm going to get healthy this new year, because we all know New Year's resolutions, everyone's there for the first week at the gym. And then 2 weeks later, no one's there, and it's not that people didn't want to get healthy. Everybody wants to get healthy, but it goes back to what I said earlier. You got to understand what really controls your behaviors, what controls your thinking, what controls everything you do, right? And it is that subconscious programming. It is the paradigm. But I thought that was such a great lesson because I was all over the place. And, one of my favorite quotes is order is heaven's first law. And that's exactly it. You got to have order in your mind. That's why, like when I was doing that 30 wins a week with those clients, order, right? They knew exactly what they had to do every day. And I think most of us don't have that.
Chris, I think it's important to point out that those wins that you were having your clients create, they were uncomfortable actions toward their goals. Those were actions that were helping them create habits to become the person they wanted to be, the kind of person that achieved that goal that they set forth. And so those wins were uncomfortable action steps that were very well thought out for that client so that they could get to where they want to go. They could become who they wanted to be by taking those action steps, because it's in the doing that we do it. And so I think that's so important and such a powerful way to go about setting a plan for your days, weeks, right? Like we love to say, the days take care of the weeks take care of the months take care of the years. It's so important to have that really organized plan.
Yeah. It's 100%. Like it's always in the doing. It's like it's what I said at the very beginning. I think the only way you really change is by the doing of the uncomfortable, and like Monica, who you guys have all seen this week, is a great example. Monica was my client many, many years ago when she first got into this. And I wish we had some videos of Monica back then, because it's like night and day. But how did that happen? Like, how did that happen? And, she put in the work. She did the work, and, her big goal was to get to 1 million, right? And I think she did it. It was last year. I think last year was the first year she hit 1 million, or maybe it was 2 years ago. I don't remember. But again, we got to be willing to do the work. We got to be willing to get uncomfortable. So I really hope this has helped you guys. Is there another question here too? Hold on. What is the most effective way to overcome paradigms beside taking actions? I think that's the only way. Like I mean, Bob used to always say, look, if I could, put this in a syringe and inject it in your ass, I would. He said, but I can't. Like there is no shortcut. But look, that's not saying like the writing and doing all these things isn't part of it. It is part of it. Like when I had people do those 30 wins, it doesn't mean all 5 of those things each 6 days was really hard, right? I mean, they don't have to be extremely difficult things, but they are going to be things that are opposite to your paradigm, because that's how you change a paradigm. That's how the paradigm was created. It's just when it was created, you didn't choose it. It was created for you. So again, the only way you're ever going to change the paradigm is actions. Sorry. All right. Any last questions?
Chris, there is, give me 1 second. Someone put something in the. Yes, okay. They were, there was a client just letting us know they have a better understanding now, and it's been very helpful. And I did put the link to your calendar in the chat, so feel free to click on that. Feel free to email me. I will gladly get you on Chris's calendar. And we will, get you set up. Really, truly is a life-changing call. Chris has been studying this material for a long time. We get messages back all the time of the results that Chris's clients get, because he really is able to lay out a clear-cut path. But at the end of the day, you do have to put in the work. Chris can guide you. You do have to put in the work, and it's really exciting.
It is. I mean, that's the best part about what we do. It's the stories, right? It's the wins, and anyone can do it.
Chris, one last question. Can you give a clear-cut definition of what a paradigm is?
I mean, I can give you Bob's definition, but like my definition, like how I look at it is a little bit different. Obviously, like I said, I came from IT, so I'm a little analytical. It's your operating system. It's what controls you, and it's not just the habits, it's what controls your perspective of the world. It controls your beliefs. It controls your attitude. It controls everything. Your self-image is a part of your paradigm, right? So everything I really do like it's your operating system. It's really what governs your performance in life. It controls everything. It's, like here in the US, like, I know it's like, everybody argues over like politics and stuff. And it's just like, why does one have this perception and someone else has a totally different perception? And like people are trying to fight to prove that their way is the right way. And the truth is, guys, it's just programming, it's paradigms. It doesn't make one right or wrong. It's just conditioning. So your paradigm is your operating system, and it's really what is controlling your life. And I remember when I first got into this, I don't know why I thought this, but I just thought that paradigms, it's all bad. And it's not. Like, you have great paradigms too, and you can choose which ones you want to change, and you can choose which ones you want to keep. There's certain things that I like, right? I know, like, look, I told Kelly, like, I like tequila. Like, I like it, I like it. On Friday nights, I always have a drink of tequila. And, is that the best thing? Probably not, but I like it. I'm not going to change it. I enjoy it. So again, you choose what you want to change for you, and no one should be telling you any different. It's not what anybody else thinks. It's only about what you think.
Chris, I think that as you've been talking, it sparked some people's questions. So we had another question come in as you were answering that. And this question is, if my goal is not powerful enough to wake me up at 5 a.m. in the morning, then what should I do to make my goal more intense? And we've been having lots of conversations about this, so I'm excited to hear what you say right now.
Okay, so yeah, I never really agreed with, I don't care what time you wake up. Like, I don't care. It has no determining factor in your success. Like, there's plenty of people don't wake up at 5 in the morning that are extremely successful. Right. I read that Mark Zuckerberg wakes up at like 9 to 10 in the morning. It's not about what time you wake up. It's about how effective you are throughout your day. So, I don't wake up at 5 a.m. I get up at like 6, but I get up when I wake up, and I just always wake up at 6. So, again, I don't think it's necessarily about a time that you wake up. Now, again, if you don't like waking up at 5 and you want to work on developing discipline, self-discipline, that's a good thing to do. Because again, it's like I said, it's about, creating those wins. It's not about what each individual thing is. It's about getting in the habit of creating wins. And to do that, it's going to take self-discipline. But again, I don't think it's about a time. Like, I don't care what someone wakes up, wake up whenever you want, but you got to be fused with your goal for sure. Like, I don't care, so if you're not fused with the goal, I would tell you, make sure it's the right goal. And, how do you do that? I would tell you, go back to the vision, write out the vision, get locked into the vision of how you want to be living. I was talking to a client of mine, this is 2 days ago, and he's created a great deal of success, right? Financially. So he doesn't ever have to work, and he's interested in possibly joining the consultancy. And he said, well, I don't want to work like 40 hours a week. I said, has nothing to do with that. I said, you can put in 2 hours a week if you want. It's not about the number of hours. You just got to become effective. And, we have several consultants. Like, we got I don't know if I'm supposed to name names, but we have one guy in Boston, he said he puts 5 hours a week, earns significant 7-figure income, and he's not a lazy guy. He's got 14 other companies. He doesn't have a bunch of time. So again, it's not time, it's effectiveness. And, even at the end, Bob would always talk about Bob was always amazed at like, the results, how the results were. And he said, it's crazy. I said, I work a fraction of what I used to work and the results are so much better. And again, he just became more aware. So it's not hours, it's effective.
Chris, a follow-up question to that first one was, what do I do so that when I do wake up, my first thought is my goal?
Auto suggestion. So you can do that until it is impregnated in the subconscious mind, so keep either writing out the goal or writing out the vision, whatever it is for you. I would tell you, like, if it's not there, it probably isn't the right goal yet. So, I mean, I would keep working on it. It's like I said earlier, it's not easy. It's like, you got to really work at this. You may not have your answer next week, but you keep doing the work, you keep doing the exercise until you have your answer. Cool. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you guys all making the live call. I am recording this, so I will send out the recording. I think they usually do that on Monday or Tuesday. If you do want to schedule the appointment, connect with Kelly. We'll find a time. I think she already sent out the link. If you need anything else, you're more than welcome to email me. My email is really easy. It's just Chris, CHRIS @proctorgallagher.com. All right. So thank you again. And if you guys need anything, let me know. Thanks, Kelly.
Bye, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Take care.